Hello, my dear listeners. My name is Kishore Ganesh, and in this episode of the Vocal About Visuals podcast, I'll be reviewing Amazon Prime's original series, Reacher, featuring the character created by Lee Child, starring Alan Ritchson, Willa Fitzgerald, Kristen Cruick, Malcolm Goodwin, and others. I became aware of the existence of the Jack Reacher character in the books of Lee Child on one of my many trips to and strolls around my favorite bookstore back when I was in my early teens. But I didn't take to the books despite buying one of the novels called One Shot. Then came the Tom Cruise films, and coincidentally, the first of these was actually based on One Shot. Post watching this film is when I realized that I like these stories in the movie format rather than as books. So, when Reacher was released on Amazon Prime, which promised a much more grittier and brutal Reacher, more accurate to the actual description of the character in the books, I was curious, to say the least. Reacher Season 1 is based on the first novel featuring this character, Killing Fields. It is set in Georgia, a part of the US that is not very familiar to me via film, TV, and general pop culture media, and this immediately had me hooked. Along with wanting to know more about Reacher, I also wanted to see how life looked in the American South, at least as true as it got represented in the series. And if it wasn't accurate, I don't know, I've never been to Georgia, at least it worked from the story point of view, and from that perspective, it seemed authentic enough. Alan Ritchson's casting as Jack Reacher is perfect. He's built like a tank and is convincing as a character that is supposed to be intimidating to even folks in the army. So, when in the series you see him killing a guy with his bare hands, or fighting off a whole bunch of jail inmates, or going to fight a gun battle alongside some small town cops and civilians, it doesn't seem incredulous. The casting of Willa Fitzgerald as the leading lady, Roscoe Conklin, is also good. She's playing an independent woman who's capable of taking care of herself and enforcing the law in her town as a cop. Her character, set in this milieu of a small town, standing up as one of the few voices of morality and the only female voice at that in a town that has gotten rotten from the bottom to the top, worked big time for me. Throughout the series, not once does this character come across as a damsel in distress for Reacher to save, and that's down to some really good writing. The writing and the direction are strong throughout the first season, and this results in a few memorable supporting characters as well, apart from the two leads. Reacher, as a character, is the ultimate free spirit. Independence is the driving motivation of this character, so much so that he literally has no possessions to tie him down, no property, no relationships, no vehicle even to travel around. He literally hitchhikes from one place to another. But in this story, that is spread over 8 episodes, there is a tragedy that strikes Reacher's core, and it is this tragedy that drives him. A character that does not get tied down to anything or anyone gets tied up in a very dangerous situation thanks to a personal tragedy, and it is very entertaining to watch this conflict play out. The tragedy and the conflict it presents to the fundamental nature of Reacher worked as a pretty good hook for me personally. The interesting milieu further enhanced the appeal of the show. On the whole, with Lee Child executive producing the series, Amazon's Reacher seems to be true to the author's vision. Season 1 particularly has an exciting plot that makes it apt for binge watching. And if the upcoming seasons are going to be anything like season 1, then one can expect a show with copious amounts of action and thriller elements that can entertain fans of action thrillers and the Lee Child novels. Once again, my name is Kishore Ganesh. This is the Vocal About Visuals podcast, and thank you, my dear listeners, for your time and for listening. Please do give this podcast a follow on your preferred podcast platforms and on YouTube. Give my socials a follow at Podcast Plural on Twitter and Instagram for memes about movies, Arsenal FC, and links to my upcoming episodes. Thank you.